Perek Yud Gimel, Posuk Aleph. Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe vel Aaron Lamor. Hashem spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, Odom, Kia bo besoro, seis osapachas, obeheres. Person has in the skin of his flesh, seis osapachas, obeheres. It's various levels of lesions, each one being classified based on the intensity of whiteness. Tzoraas, and it developed on the skin of his flesh as a lesion, which is classified as leprosy, Tzoraas. V'huvel HaKohen, and he's brought to the Kohen. Oh, lachad bibor v'kohanim, to the Kohen means to Aaron, or one of his sons who are Kohanim. So over here, there's an Orach Chaim HaKodesh. He points out, it doesn't say it was bisoro. Normally, bisoro means on his flesh, means on his skin. When something develops, it develops on your flesh. But here the Torah goes out and says twice, Odom Kiye Ba'or Besoro. It's on the skin of his flesh. We would have interpreted Besoro meaning his skin. But why does it say Or Besoro? And again, it says, and it turned out that these intense levels of whiteness, which are lesions, Or Besoro, L'negat Tzoraas, and it evolved in the skin of his flesh as a leprous lesion. So then, Vuval HaKohen, El Aaron HaKohen. Firstly, it should have said Ubo. When he realizes that he has a problem, he comes to the Kohen. The Torah doesn't say he comes, but rather he's brought. He's brought to the Kohen. I mean, a person only knows whether he has the leprosy or not, or the question, if he realizes it should say he comes. What does it mean, Huva? And he's brought. Who brings him? We're not talking about a person who's being incapacitated and he has to be brought. He comes on his own. So why does it say Huva and not Ubo? So the Sephron over here explains, if a person himself realizes something, and due to that realization, he's compelled. When the term compelled means he's self-motivated, so the term would be Vuhuva. Bo means it's my own initiative I come, but it's not something which is compelling. The word Vuhuva means, and he's brought, he basically realizes because he has a problem, or he may have a very serious problem, he's brought to the Kohen. The word Huva indicates it's so compelling, he almost has no choice but to come to the Kohen. This is the Seforno. That's what it says, Huva rather than Ubo, and he comes. I'll explain in a moment. If there's something which is irresistible, it's like you're drawn there. So the term used would be Vuhuva rather than Ubo, meaning the issue is so, you can't deny you have a problem. You have no choice but to come. The connotation of Bo means it could wait, but I chose to come. Vuhuva means you have no choice. Because of the urgency of the moment, you must come. So it's like you're being brought rather than I'm choosing to come. Okay? That's a Sefarno. But over here, on this issue over here, the Torah uses a term or besoro, on the skin of his flesh, rather than saying on his flesh. When we speak about the lesion, this leprous lesion, why is it or besoro and not besoro? There's Rabbeinu Bachya cites a Pirkei Reb Lezer that at the time of the sin of the Eitz Hadas, when Adam ate of the tree of knowledge, and he became impacted with the evil of the fruit of the Eitz Hadas, because it's Tov v'Ra. Before the Eitz Hadas, before he ate, Adam did not have hair on his body. Did not have hair. So two things happened. The Orach Chaim, the Pirkei Reb Lezer doesn't say, The Zohar, which is cited by the Orach Chaim, says that's when the foreskin grew on Adam. That's the foreskin. But the hair, he doesn't mention. The Zohar doesn't mention, but the Pig Rebbe says he grew hair. And the snake, which in Torah says explicitly, originally walked on two legs upright. God says you will no longer have feet, but you're going to slither on your belly. That's explicit in the Torah. As a result of seducing Adam and Eve, Adam Mechava Tid of Eitz Hadas, Tid of tree of knowledge. But the Pig Rebbe says, and the punishment to the snake was in addition that it became a leper. Because every snake has these rings that looks like psoriasis on its skin, on a snake skin. That was the punishment of Tzoraas. The snake for seducing Chava to eat and speaking Lashon Hara on Hashem. Because what the snake said to Chava, what do you think God doesn't want you to eat of the tree of knowledge? Because how do you think he assumed his creative powers? He ate of the tree of knowledge, of that fruit, which gave him those creative powers to create the world. He doesn't need anyone else competing with him in this arena of creation. He doesn't want you people to become creators. That's why he forbade you from eating of the tree of knowledge. That's Chazal. So because he seduced and he convinced them and he spoke negatively about Hashem, therefore, ultimately, as Torah says, his legs were removed, he slithers on his belly, and dirt is his fodder. But the Pig Rebbe says he became a leper. And that's the snake skin, that every snake has these circles on its skin. That's Tzoraas. Tzoraas is a derivative of the Ra of the Eitz Hadas, of the evil of the Eitz Hadas. We find that we speak about the contamination of the dead. Person comes in contact with the dead, he's contaminated minimally, even if he has the procedure of the paraduma, he's contaminated for 7 days. And only after 7 days does he go to the mikvah and he's pure. But it's 7 days. 7 days is what? Is the most intense level of impurity. And the only way you could remove that impurity is only with the Eitz Hadas. That's so the Metzora and the person who comes in contact with the dead is the same level of contamination, 7 days. A Metzora, even when he recovers from his leprosy, it's a 7-day procedure till he's reinstated. Even when he recovers, what does he have to do? He has to shave the hair off his body. It's interesting. To shave his hair off his body. As the Pig Rebbe says, what happened after the Eitz Hadas? Adam grew hair. So hair is an outgrowth of the evil of the Eitz Hadas, and the snake became a leper. So when the person recovers from his leprosy, first of all, when he's a leper, he has to go out of the camp. The level of contamination is such, he becomes a pariah that he can't be associated with any of the camps. We have 3 camps, Machne Shechina, Machne Levia, and Machne Yisrael. He has to go out of all 3 camps. And Boded Yeshiv, and he stays there in solitude. And he has this level of contamination that we'll read in Chukas. If you have the remains of a corpse in a house and there's a covering, any body or any vessel in that location becomes contaminated. A Metzora, if you're under the same roof with a Metzora, with a leper, you become contaminated. No different than being in the same room with with the corpse. It generates the same level of contamination. What was the cause of death? Eating of the tree of knowledge. So the evil of the tree of knowledge, which causes death, generates that intensity of contamination that even if you don't come in contact with the corpse, just being under the same roof, you become contaminated. The leper has the same level, intensity of contamination. It's not only if you come in direct contact with him, does he contaminate, even if he's under the same roof with the person or with the vessel, everything under that roof becomes contaminated. That's Tzoraas. So when he recovers, so what's the procedure for his purification? He removes the hair. The hair is a result of the tree of knowledge. And he's recovered. I mean, the leprosy is no longer on his body, the lesion, which again, the snake became the leper. These are the circular rings on its skin, which is similar to psoriasis. That's the leprosy. That's the picture of Lezer. So now, the Rechaim HaKodesh says, why does the Torah say or besoro and not besoro? Say it's on his flesh. Flesh means on his skin. And it's interesting, when we speak about the removal of the foreskin, which was mentioned in the pasuk earlier, when the woman conceives and gives birth to a male, it says, Yimol besar or loso. There it doesn't say you should circumcise the foreskin of his flesh, besar or loso. The arlo is referred to arlo. It doesn't say you should remove, the mila is arbesoro. So arlo, because speaking about something much more specific. So we had said, again, in name of Zohar, that when he ate of the Eitz Hadas, that's when the foreskin developed and grew and covered the male organ. This is the ultimate representation, and it's part and parcel of every male, that this is the representation, the manifestation of evil, the way it manifests itself. Only a Jew, when he removes that foreskin, does it affect him positively, that evil no longer saddles the person and impedes the person and limits the person regarding his spirituality. In the words of the Zohar, it's a tikkun. It's a correction, and it addresses that issue. So you remove the or besoro, the orlo from his bosor, besar aloso, meaning that orlo is part and parcel of his essence. This is very important what I'm saying now. It's his essence. Unless you remove it, his essence is totally shut down. The essence of the Jew is what? Is a spirituality. So when you remove it, you're removing it from his essence. Tzoraas, leprosy, is or. It's something which is superficial. It's only skin deep. It doesn't affect his bosor. It's not his flesh. It's something which is the equivalent of an incidental. It's only skin deep. It doesn't go beyond that. Meaning, the non-being circumcised, his essence is impacted by that orlo. The removal of that foreskin allows him to function as a spiritual person. When we speak about leprosy, it's only skin deep, or besoro. It's the skin, and that's what it mentions. If he finds a lesion on or besoro, and the leprous lesion, again, it mentions the skin of his flesh. The laws of leprosy have no relevance to a non-Jew. A non-Jew develops this kind of lesion, doesn't generate any level of contamination. The question is why. So he explains the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, because regarding a Jew, it's or besoro. The or has the leprosy. By a non-Jew, his bosser is tzoras. His actually flesh represents that, meaning he was so impacted by the Eitz Hadas, his essence is an essence of what that represents. We speak about the balance between good and evil. Klal also is a representation of good in existence. The negative side of the equation are the nations of the world. They are the negative. They represent what we call Ra. The Jews represent the good. That's the counterbalance. Therefore, what are they? They were impacted by the Eitz Hadas, their bosser. Their bosser became fully integrated with that evil. Klal Yisrael, due to Avraham Avinu's advancement and his initiative regarding spirituality, it only affects the skin, it's not the flesh. The flesh is the essence of the person. The essence of the Jew is not affected by that, it's only superficial. Therefore, we can contend with it. Therefore, we remove the foreskin. We're in a position to make choices on the most sophisticated level, 365 negative commandments, 248 positive commandments. A non-Jew doesn't have that acuity to be able to make those discernments, to be able to deal with anything beyond the Shev Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, beyond the 7 Noahide laws. The Jew, because he has a great acuity for spirituality due to its only so-called superficial, it's not his essence, it's not the bosor, therefore the removal of the foreskin makes a difference whether he functions as a spiritual person or doesn't function as a spiritual person.